What's up, investors? It's the Russian dude. So, Moscow is under attack once again, and no one even flinches anymore. Drone strikes, grounded airports, burning train stations, all just another entry in Putin's daily planner. The capital of a country with a nuclear arsenal larger than the global commons is now a playground for Ukrainian FPV drones built with wires, GoPros and desperation. What's the Kremlin's response? Shrug, spin and carry on. Pretend like Rostov's railway hub did not just light up like a bonfire. Pretend that grounded flights from Domodedovo are just a seasonal hiccup. Pretend like everything is fine while the walls are literally crumbling. What happened to don't you even dare to attack, to even think about attacking Russian territory? As much as one single bullet lands anywhere in Russia, that's it. The consequences will be most dire. Meanwhile, Kiev is not just launching drones, it's launching a geopolitical offensive. Volodymyr Zelenskyy is offering a mega deal to the United States, battlefield-tested drone technology and training in exchange for weapons to keep the fight going. And if that was not enough, Ukraine has also reached out with yet another peace proposal. Yes, the very same week that Russia bombed a subway and injured a 12-year-old, Ukraine is still trying to talk. Because unlike the Kremlin, which sees diplomacy as a weakness, Ukraine still understands that peace, real peace, is a strength. But make no mistake, this is not a story about peace talks or drone strikes in isolation. It's about a fundamental shift in the global order. It's about how Russia's war has backfired so hard that the once complacent capital is now a frontline, and the world's largest dictatorship is losing to a nation whose soldiers are assembling drones in bomb shelters out of old toasters and microwaves. If this is not the modern interpretation of David and Goliath story, I don't know what else is. Let's talk about all of it in today's video. The illusion is that, for the longest time, the Kremlin made sure that one thing remained true. The war never touched Moscow. Let the front lines be soaked in blood, let Belgrade shake under Ukrainian shells, but Moscow, the motherland's crown jewel, never. Well, guess what? That crown now has burn marks, not one, not two, but many. And each new mark is darker and deeper than the previous one. Several consecutive nights of drone attacks, not minor provocations, not rumors, drones literally flying into Russian airspace, bypassing its glorified air defenses and causing very real disruption. In Kamenolomny, a small village in Rostov Oblast and a huge part of a critical rail network, the roof of a train station caught fire after drone debris rained down. That is just the visible part. Behind the scenes, 26 passenger trains were delayed for up to 4.5 hours. And you know what happens when rail schedules get messed up in a country that relies so heavily on trains to move troops and missiles. The entire war effort gets a massive slowdown that's going to cost billions of rubles and lives, thousands of lives. So Russian propaganda might claim just a minor train station got affected, the fire was extinguished briefly, but we all know that such small cuts and nicks is what annoys the regime of Putin the most. Not just because it makes war unnecessarily harder for them, but because it exposes their vulnerabilities to the whole world. Ukraine can attack Russia, and nothing happens in return. The enemies of Russia see it, and the worst part for Putin, his friends see it as well. And don't expect honest reaction from the Russian propaganda, obviously. Officials said that 3 people were evacuated, like they kind of deserve a medal for just doing their job. The real casualty was not measured in bodies, it was the complete and public collapse of the Kremlin's favorite fairy tale, that the war is going somewhere else, that Moscow is safe, that drones are just wind-blown trash with a vengeance. And don't forget the airports, flight grounded in Domodedovo and Zhukovsky again. We're not talking about local inconvenience, we're talking about bottlenecking Russia's major, not them, one of them, but the major international hubs. The kind of place where thousands of planes take off and land weekly, and now turned into a glorified drone panic shelter. This is not just about delays anymore, it's about the message. And Ukraine's message is loud and crystal clear. You are not safe. You never know when the next attack is coming, because trust us, it will. Let's also mention the symbolism. A flower shop also caught fire, not a military target, not even transportation infrastructure. Just a quiet little building that sells tulips and roses, now scorched, smoldering, and unrecognizable. That is the part that Kremlin does not want you to see. That this war now is so close that even symbols of everyday life are collateral. Ukraine has rewritten modern warfare with heavy reliance on drones. That's a fact. 20-something strongest military in the world before the war started now completely changed the narrative. Ukraine did not have to adapt to modern combat. Ukraine developed new style and everyone followed. Let's talk about it in a little bit more details in our next chapter. Here is the part that should make the Pentagon listen and definitely terrifies the Kremlin. Ukraine is not just reacting anymore. It is innovating, it is improvising, and it is winning. The FPV drones are not just tools, they are the doctrine now. They are how a smaller, resource-starved country holds off one of the biggest militaries of the world. Not just holding off, but also making it bleed. Ukraine figured out what Russia did not, that the future of warfare does not lie in the number of tanks you can parade down the Red Square. It lies in adaptability, in turning a consumer drone into a guided missile, in teaching 22-year-old conscripts how to fly surveillance missions with $500 equipment while coding evasive maneuvers and borrowed laptops. And now, they are exporting it. Enter Zelensky's so-called mega deal with the United States, which is a full-blown geopolitical pivot. And here's how it works. Ukraine offers the US a collection of combat knowledge, 3 years worth of trial, error and battlefield hacks. In return, American weapons. Not charity, not aid, a transaction. That's how you turn tragedy into a strategy. Because right now, America is losing the drone race, and not to Russia, not even to China, but to a war-torn country fighting for its very existence. And the irony is brutal. The country with the biggest defense budget in history is being taught modern warfare by a nation with blackouts, Russian artillery and duct tape. Pentagon officials are finally admitting it. We are not giving the American warfighter what they need to survive warfare today, said Trent, a maniac of the Defense Innovation Unit. If that's not warning sign, what is then? In contrast, Ukraine does not have the luxury of bureaucracy. It has to get it right or die trying. Their engineers are not sitting in climate-controlled labs. They are crouched in basements attaching cameras to drone frames between air raid sirens. They have tested everything, from drone swarms to anti-jammer tech. They have built things that are not in NATO manuals yet, and it works. Remember that June 1st attack, Operation Putin or Spiderweb. 41 aircraft damaged, strategic bombers, surveillance planes, support aircraft, all gone in a single coordinated drone blitz. Ukraine claims that 34% of Russia's strategic bomber fleet was taken out in that one single operation alone. This is what happens when a country fights with its back against the wall. It does not innovate for profit, it innovates for survival. And now they are ready to share it. And still, believe it or not, Ukraine is genuinely interested in resuming peace talks. The serious ones, not the ones where Ukraine surrenders and accepts every single Putin's demand. No, the kind of peace talks where everyone wins something and then loses something. Let's talk about them in our next chapter. Now for the part that leaves your head spinning. In the same week that Russian missiles hit civilian neighborhoods, Ukraine sends another peace proposal. And no, this is not even a satire. It is what makes this whole conflict so maddening. The country that's being attacked, shelled and terrorized still wants to talk. President Zelensky confirmed that Rustem Umerov, newly appointed head of the National Security and Defense Council, reached out to Russian negotiators. He even said that he would be willing to meet Putin face to face, again. Like this is a quarterly business review or presentation of annual results or whatever, not a bloodbath. And let's be brutally honest, guys. These peace talks, they are a gamble. Ukraine does not trust Russia, and for a very good reason. Every ceasefire has been followed by betrayal. Every corridor has been shelled. Every promise has been broken. But Ukraine proposes peace talks anyways. Why? Because they do understand the toll, the emotional wreckage, the fact that every week of fighting means more children with PTSD, more homes turned to rubble, and more futures erased. And what is Putin's then response? Silence at best. At worst, more missiles, more deaths. This week alone, for example, 2 civilians were killed and 15 injured during a Russian aerial assault. A 12-year-old child is now in critical condition because diplomacy is not as fun as bombing playgrounds, apparently. There is a reason no one trusts the Kremlin anymore. You do not propose peace while aiming rockets at apartment buildings. You do not call for a dialogue while your army levels a kindergarten. And yet, Ukraine still shows up, because someone has to. Because at the end of the day, Ukraine does not want revenge. It wants peace. It wants foreign soldiers gone from their territory. Simple as that. It does not need Belgorod. It does not need Kursk. It does not need to plant Ukrainian flag atop Kremlin. No, nothing like this. It only wants peace and silence. Just not the kind of peace that involves surrendering its sovereignty to a war criminal. Let's take now a break from the drone talk and the military chessboard. Let's now talk about the cost in human terms. June 2025 was not just another bad month. It was probably the deadliest month for civilians since February 2022. According to the United Nations, 232 civilians were killed, 1,343 were injured. And those are just the numbers they can confirm. In a war where missile strikes level entire neighborhoods and drones zip through windows, the real numbers are most likely higher. 13 million Ukrainians now depend on humanitarian aid. 13 million, that's 1/3 of the entire population. Imagine 1 in every 3 people in your country needing food packages and trauma counseling just to survive the week. And if you think humanitarian aid is just about rice and water bottles, well, think again. Aid workers in Ukraine are dealing also with the emotional debris of the war. People who have lost every single family member. Children who have not spoken in months. Parents who dig through rubble hoping to find a body. Any body. At the Ukraine Recovery Conference in Rome, representatives from Caritas and other humanitarian agencies made it very clear. This is not just a crisis of infrastructure. This is a crisis of the soul. Rebuilding bridges and hospitals will not mean much if the people are too broken to walk across those bridges. And how does Russia respond to this humanitarian implosion? You already guessed it. With another missile launch. With another denazification speech. With another refusal to even acknowledge the dead. And while the West debates military spending, children in Kharkov sleep on subway stations. Not because this symbolic or photo shoots like Kremlin always mentions, but because it's the only place left that has not been bombed. That's the only place which is relatively safe, at least physically. Well, there you have it, guys. If you haven't done so already, please subscribe to my channel for more videos like this. If you haven't seen our Monday episode of Thank God It's Monday podcast, where I talk with Paul Warburg, it is already uploaded. Please go ahead and check it. Thanks so much for watching. If you wish to support my work, the links below. Thanks so much for watching. See you tomorrow.
We won't succumb to their tricks, the facade they try to sell. Their twisted words and feeble claims on us all they cannot quell. We see through their lies, their feeble attempts to sway. We do not believe in ridiculous Russian propaganda.